going to follow through. No further engage. And the first few minutes of gameplay, what's your current review or rating on Kasing's Yuumi?
I'd say it's pretty average right now on the Yuumi. They haven't been able to do a whole lot, but I think Yuumi actually scales up much better after her first base, and especially once she starts getting levels in the queue, because early on that's about a 10-second cooldown. It ends up scaling down to like 4 or 5 seconds, so you can just spam that sucker out a whole lot. And you can see, nice play from Kasing. He was trying to block the skill shot so that Yarnen's teleport or recall could go through. Unfortunately for them, Vander has the W as well to get the AoE knockback.
Alright, so interrupts the recall back timing for now. Now remember, when Expect is overheated, won't be able to cast any more spells. Needs the cooldown. That's Flash already blown. Trading Flash for profit. The stun, the flails, spinning for the winning. One more auto is all that's needed. Expect survives another 2v1.
So sick right there, waiting there for the shield. Inspired actually flashes forward to try and find that final auto attack, but Expect is able to get out clean.
Oh, so good. Yesterday he did it against Schalke. Today he does it against Rogue. So very well played. 2 flashes for 1. And it looks like the recalls from Vander and Woolite should be able to complete while Hyonin is dealing with that minion wave underneath his tower.
Yeah, also because Inspired was seeing top lane, this gives time for Kadril to walk on in and take the Gromp camp. They also know that Woolite and Vander went back to base, so just a nice invade timing here from Kadril, who also spots out Inspired and knows he has a level lead.
All right, so small advantage to Inspired. Correction, Kadril in that regard. But taking stock of the CS, as we talked about, there's laning bonus benefits. Expect is up 12, and Larson is currently up 8, as Expect's making his way to the mid lane.
Yeah, this is really cool. He has the equalizer now, and he was looking to see maybe there's an opportunity. You saw a special actually with the Emperor's Divide as well to try and get that knockback in case a play was going to be possible. But one of the things Excel is doing really well at the moment is putting down deep vision. You know, first it started with Kadril on the bottom side of the map, then during that roam, Expect actually put down a control ward up top side. Kadril, or Expect, has to flash away. That's the replay. I'm getting baited.
I was just about to save you there for a second. Obviously, that was the replay from Expect's POV as we can see Excel. They've now started the Infernal, right? All of that information that you talked about in the setup, with Kadril coming in, stealing away the camp, then moving to his stronger side of the jungle, pushing away Inspired allows Excel to pick up early objective, early farm. And this is a very good early game here for Excel.
Yeah, I like it so far. You can also go on ProView, check out Kasing and his Yuumi, the first one ever. You see Yarnen using that E to find the clean disengage from Vander popping forward.
That's it. If you want to watch that ProView, right.com/ProView. Go check it out. All right, so still trading. 63 CS to 61. It's pretty even in this bottom lane, actually. Pushing back and forth. But now we're starting to get to these level 6s. So what is Yuumi Ezreal going to do at 6? Is there any big change? Because I know that there's some kill pressure that Rogue can play with if they get there.
Basically, the way that Yuumi Ezreal lanes work is you're never just going to immediately walk into lane and go for an all-in. This lane is very much about attrition and whittling you down over time because of the low cooldowns and the range of their poke spells. So once you see Woolite or Vander drop below 50%, that's when we might see them go a little more aggressive.
Okay. HP going to be very, very important. Woolite's still got his flash available to him, and he's obviously got the ultimate just to jump away from any of the potential CC that can come down. But if you look at the minimap, look, Special's left his lane, and Kadril again is going for an invade. He's using this early game power of Lee Sin very, very well, but I think he ended up losing that fight and didn't get the blue buff from his
I think Kadril could have played that a little bit better, holding his Q to time it with the eventual smite coming down. Maybe then could have stolen it away from Inspired. Inspired is level 6 though and wants to find a play. No, oh, that is so good.
Oh, they're not going to be able to dodge away. The arcane shift was so good, but the final chapter did so much work, and Hyonin and Kasing played that well.
Yeah, I really liked that though from Woolite, channeling his ultimate early, because again, you can't immediately cast your flash or your W after popping the quickness, so he was using the control ward to try and hide that one. It was just a quick reaction from Hyonin to make the play.
All right, True Shot Barrage is available, but there's not a lot of mana to work with on Hyonin's side. Look at the channel, an ultimate thrown from Woolite. He actually stepped dead center. Would have been close.
Yeah, now luckily for Woolite, he didn't actually teleport earlier in lane when he went back to base. So if he can get this channel off, he should be able to return, but he will not have Vander with him. And Kadril is setting up for a dive with his own ultimate.
Oh, a lot of damage is going to go down into that bottom lane tower. And this is going to give Hyonin and Kasing just a bit of an advantage. They're already up 400 gold. Their Kleptomancy is doing a lot of work, plus the additional minion wave. And there's the teleport you just talked about. Woolite will return to lane. and he'll start to push this back out.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it's a 400 gold lead for the Ezreal, but it's also a 400 gold lead for this Yuumi. You know, with that extra range, it is so much more reliable that you're able to apply your, you can use your Eye of Frost to get that gold, whereas the low range of the Rakan is not able to cash in quite as easily. What we're also seeing is a Dark Seal pickup for Kasing, because you turn that into a Mejai's and you're really not going to die on this champ.
No, definitely not. A lot of safety. If your team's playing well, you know, if your attachment from you and me is the right time, right place, you can get away with a lot. I've got a quick stat question for you, Ender.
I have to answer?
You do indeed.
You're usually the guy that answers quick stats.
What was Woolite's CSD at 15 yesterday? Dun, 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 dun,
Minus 45.
Oh, terrible answer. He was at minus 66 CSD.
I thought 45 was bad.
Yesterday. That was, of course, against Misfits and Hans Summer's Lucian. So he really got bullied, and Misfits camped that bottom lane.
Yeah, they
now,
really
I'm not
did.
saying this to pick on Woolite, just saying that this game is a lot more even. There hasn't been anywhere near the same level of focus in the bottom lane, and also the matchup is just a little bit more bearable.
Yeah, I mean, if my quick maths are correct, then Hjarnan should have a 72 CS lead at 15, so he's got to put in a little bit more work before that mark comes around.
That is exactly how those stats work and are actioned, and you're learning well, Ender. Good job for that one.
Thanks.
He's not likely to get a 72 CS advantage in the next 4 minutes. But as far as CS advantages go, Prophet's even out. You know, he was down 10, 15, and we've not looked too much at this Renekton and Rumble matchup. Both of them teleports available, at least for expect very, very shortly. And we're starting to get to this point where maybe top laners want to get involved. You know, it could happen, especially with high-impact ultimate like Equalizer.
Yeah, I think Rogue would really like to actually make a play around here. They're actually bringing their duo up towards this Rift Herald because there's no dragon on the bottom side of the map. Cajal doesn't have any idea they're waiting here. It's a good control ward to spot out Woodlight and Vander.
And this was going to be a pretty safely secured Rift Herald then. The cost is, of course, onto the bottom lane. So Hjarnan and Kasing will take even more of those turret plates, still 2 minutes of life up. And with the Rift Herald available, you'd have to expect some sort of plate gank. Drop the Herald, get the gold, and get out.
I'm loving it. The return to the plate game gank here, because that is going to be the trade in the end. Before that 14-minute mark, you have to go ahead and pop that. And Inspired wasn't going to waste any time. But at the same time, it will be first turret going down in favor of Excel. So you feel like they are a little bit more happier with this trade.
Do you like the decision? You know, Rogue opted into this trade. They pulled their duo out. They opted into the Rift Herald, and now they've lost a tower. They may not be able to secure one in reply as well, depending on how quickly Expect can clear the way.
Yeah, so on one hand, I do like it because they were slowly losing that bottom lane in terms of overall gold going over to Hjarnan and Kasing, but they weren't able to find a fight. I think if you can get the Herald and maybe bait Cajal in to try and contest you around that objective, or use the element of surprise to get a dive onto Expect, then it's going to be a trade up, but instead it was a trade down because not only were they unable to secure that tower quickly, but also the Ocean Drake went into the hands of Excel.
Yeah, so all advantages to Excel. They've got every single objective except First Blood yet. And I think with some confidence, this will be the latest First Blood of the summer split here in Europe. But let's look forward for the next 5 minutes. Yuumi and Ezreal, they've come out the laning phase. They've got themselves a gold lead, a minus CS advantage. They've got the tower, so all things going well. How do you want Excel to play this mid game with this mix mash of a team composition?
Yeah, the way I see Excel's comp is it's a comp that does very well around the 2-item mark. You know, around level 11 for their Rumble, with Expect in the top lane, but also Hjarnan's Ezreal. Once it gets, you know, the Miramana finished off, you're going to be sitting at 40% CDR. You're going to be able to really play a little bit more aggressively with the support of this Yuumi. Whereas Rogue's comp with the Azir in the mid lane as well as that Xayah, maybe rely more on their 3-item spike. So Excel have this window now around, you know, from now until around the Baron spawns, where they really will have a little bit more of an advantage, especially with the gold lead they've built up.
All right, and of course there's only 1,000 gold for now, but they've got some of those first items coming in. You know, Iceborne Gauntlet for Hjarnan, plus the tier that's stacking, Essence Reaver for Woolite, Luden's in the mid lane, Nash's Tooth for Lawson, so itemization coming in. I'm looking at stopwatches. Very important to keep track of who has those for these first big exchanges, and thus far, I only see one on the side of Expect. Prophet teleported to the river. Maybe expecting a little bit more of an engage. You have to feel that's a little bit of a wasted summoner spell potentially used defensively. I didn't quite see what the reasoning was.
Yeah, we weren't able to quite catch that, but Special did steal an ultimate. Not sure if that was maybe an Emperor's Divide trying to disengage Cadril, actually.
Oh man, so much damage from Cadril. Inspired forced to flash out of fear of getting jumped on. Now Cadril is getting somewhat surrounded, but he's going to escape. Special has gone all the way in. He's forced to flash defensively. Equalizer was already used, and the prowling projectile tags Vanga. There's the follow over the wall. You and me brings Yumi all the way to the front, but the ultimate's on cooldown. No more chapters to read. That's a defensive arcane shift over the wall for Hyanin, and Rogue get 2 kills.
Yeah, Excel getting way too excited, jumping into enemy territory and going for the kills. Started with a good invade from Cadril, but they overstayed, they overcommitted. Cadril really trying to jump in there, and Rogue's comp had the survivability and the CC to really collapse and punish them.
And just like that, Rogue closed that gold gap. And of course, as Hyanin and Kasing moved into those choke points, their ultimates were on cooldown. No true shot barrage, no final chapter. And that just means Rogue do not get punished. So we crest 15 minutes, and it's Rogue and XL even footing, even game. Not a lot separating them. I'm quite excited to see the replay for where XL was going in, and it just felt very ambitious on the XL squad because they were very disconnected.
Yeah, because it was those couple members moving up from the mid lane that really got caught initially, and it ended up being a Special that bailed out and cost some members of his team their lives. But, you know, they're still not in a terrible position, I don't think. You know, the gold is bang on even. They still should have priority in a lot of these lanes, so as long as they're not going too aggressive, it shouldn't be too bad for this squad. But we'll see it one more time because, again, Special found Larson, but he got bumped right back in towards the rest of his team and could not follow up. They couldn't get the damage down on towards Larson. I don't know what he expected because that was just really, really unfortunate, walking straight into multiple members, and Cadril flashes over, trying to go for the highlight reel. I don't know what that was about.
And it looked like Vanda stepped forward to eat the Sonic Wave as well. That may have just tagged Larson, so good heads-up play on the side of the support for Rogue. And it allows them to get 2 kills, you know. Special saw an opportunity, and obviously it didn't, you know, come through to fruition. Now Vanda is caught out a little. He gets Dragon Rage kicked into the wall. Mystic Shot will tag him, but again, no further damage. Now True Shot Barrage is available if Hyanin sees a clear shot, but I don't think it'll be enough to kill him just yet.
Yeah, if the angle on that kick was just a little bit sharper there, they would have been able to maybe get him underneath the tower and lock down him for a kill, but he will be able to get out. And now Rogue actually feeling a little bit more confident with Inspired and Larson around this top lane. They will finally break this turret, which will put them into the lead.
And there we go. That gives them a 500 gold lead, evens out the tower game at 1-1. Ocean Drake is 2.5 minutes away. And we are solidly and comfortably into the mid-game. So let's turn our perspective to Rogue. They're the ones that got the kills. They punished XL. Where did they take this team composition? Renekton's got Black Cleaver. Does he want to split push or try unlock a side lane?
Yeah, I think Prophet right now in a side lane is going to be quite strong. Ultimately, I don't think he's able to really pressure down a tower because he's not a ranged top laner. It's much harder for him to knock down the structures. In a 1v1, that does make him strong. You know, he has a lot of these base stats that melee champions do have to take those types of fights. Also has the Merc Treads to defend against Expects Rumble. But ultimately, I think Rogue are comfortable just waiting this one out a little bit more. They have the easier to execute 5v5 composition. They have the scaling on 3 items with their 2 major carries, and it feels more like Excel will be pressured to make a move earlier than a Rogue would, perhaps, even if Excel are behind.
Is it clear-cut scaling advantage to Rogue's composition here? I think obviously in the 5v5s it's understandable, but you know, with Ezreal, with the Silas, you know, how do they match up at 3-4 items?
So it's much harder for Excel because their comp is a lot more conditional based on skill shots from a Yuumi and an Ezreal, and based on taking much longer fights where they avoid the initial engage from Rogue. Because if they are able to step back and wait out a lot of those major cooldowns, they don't really have the same big high impact ults that they would rely on. You know, once Special hits level 16, that ult is on a 15-second cooldown, so you can keep stealing those high impact ones, and that's when Excel's comp maybe gets a little bit easier to execute playing around those Silas ults.
All right, so XL will pick up an easy dragon because Rogue committed all their resources to the top lane. Ooh, but this is going to get interesting. The projectile into the last chapter. Now Special finds the connection because stun's not going to be enough, though. It's instantly turned around. Inspired's ulti locks down Special.
Yeah, the rest of Rogue just waiting there. Inspired not going to let that one happen. It was an ambitious teleport there. Hyanin and Kassim joining together, but ultimately Rogue were able to disengage and punish.
Man, just so much CC, and then there's not enough survivability. There's no real front line on the side of XL.
Yeah, there's also no hard CC. It just is all delayed. It's all not coming in all that quickly. So unfortunately for XL, they weren't able to lock down Moonlight or Vander and burst them down because their comp just doesn't have those tools.
No, they absolutely don't, and Rogue does. So they've punished every aggressive move that XL have made in the last 5 minutes. That's why Rogue have got themselves 3 kills, have got themselves 1,500 gold in the lead. We've just hit 20 minutes on the game clock, and the advantage that XL has right now is in the Dragons. Ocean Drake is going to be up in 4 minutes' time. So if this game goes late, if it pushes past, the threat of Elder Dragon is scaling, and that's not something you want to give to all of the damage dealers on the side of XL. There's a lot of burn that can come through from that buff.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the team comp like XL's, you look at it and you say maybe they're actually best in a siege situation with this Ezreal and this Yuumi. So if they are in a position with the Baron buff, that will come in very handy for them. Starts off with the teleport from the mid lane to the top lane. Of course, Kasing gets to go along with them. And Special does have the Recon ult, so he's trying to get in here for the quickness. But you see, a quick flash away from Moonlight is all it takes to kite back into the rest of his team to get that kill.
Oh, really nicely done. Defensive play and then Inspired connecting with that Glacial Prison. I think actually the way the observers are trying to highlight the perspective was from Kasing. Just attach to a champion and follow them around the map. But as it stands, I mean, look, this is the number 10 and number 9 teams from the spring split.
Here we go.
They're going to be trading. As I start story time, Inspired's going to find the blast cone over the wall. Final chapter's not doing huge amounts onto the tankiness of Inspired, and XL, they just simply cannot find the kills. They don't have enough CC yet.
It's just not reliable for them, so they're going to keep looking for these types of plays, and maybe if Cadril can find a flank with this Lee Sin, then it could be possible for a big kick that knocks a priority member from Rogue into the rest of the team, and that is how they could win a team fight, but for now it just is not looking great.
Yeah, and what I was saying just before that is, you know, these are the 2 teams that have something to prove. They struggle to find a rhythm and really challenge many of the other teams here in LEC in the spring split. And XL, I think they had slightly higher highs than Rogue did in spring, but they both come into summer. They've both got some roster, you know, modifications and changes, and they've got to show Europe what they can do. And as it stands, definitely clear-cut behind the strongest that Europe has to offer.
Yeah, you know, XL was one of those teams that always upset. Rogue was always a team that was trying to do better. Now they've made major changes, bringing in so many players from that Polish Ultraliga roster that did so well in that ERL, and the changes are supposed to help them. They are supposed to be a step forward. Today's game is really that first step for either of these teams. The one that wins will have sort of that pathway that they can go on to not be a 9th or 10th place team.
Exactly. Very early win in the season is always beneficial. Maybe Baron's going to help either of these squads. Rogue started it, by the way, a moment ago before they were pushed outside of the pit by XL. And I think it is very important to note just how much AoE damage is on the side of XL. You know, when you look at Silas's kit, True Shot Barrage, Yuumi Ultimate, Equalizer, and that's before you add in any potential threats. You know, throw in a Emperor's Divide or Glacial Prison if Special can get his hands on one of those. And there's a lot of damage to work with. Look at this flank. This is just for the tower for now. If Larson or Inspired step forward, they will be at risk of getting jumped on. And XL, that's a very, very good ultimate to steal with the prison.
Yeah, it's a high-impact ultimate, but it needs to mean something now for XL, because once you steal an ult like that, or any ult really, you have to wait quite a significant time before you're able to repeat that same Sejuani ultimate. So because he stole it prior to that potential turret dive and play around the mid lane, that was what they were looking for. Now if it just times out, or he throws it out in not really that impactful an engage, you're going to be missing that for a fight that could be around the next dragon or potentially a Baron now that we're 24 minutes in.
Yeah, absolutely. High risk, of course, but a reward if it can land when you have an XL kit that doesn't have a huge amount of hard lockdown. That was a fantastic Glacial Prison. Inspired continues to step forward, but Special, he used it defensively, saving his own life. Dragon's Rage King following up, as well as the secondary Q. Now Vander continues to run for his life. Defensive teleports coming out from Rogue, but it's Special that ends up trading 1-for-1 with Moonlight. Inspired is so low. Expector's trying to chase him down, can't find it out. Cadril needs to fight. We're not going to kill him. Inspired survives.
It was so close right there. Ultimately, Rogue come out on top, thwarting thwarting the engage attempts there of XL. I have no idea how Vander survived, but he was the hero.
But for the first time, XL get themselves a kill, but they are punished every time they try to re-engage a fight. Rogue started the fight, and Rogue ended the fight winning it.
Yes, they did. Vander goes in and then does not get touched. He's at 50 HP maybe and will not go down. There are also some opportunities in there for Cadril to go for the hero plays, but ultimately it will just mean Rogue get further ahead.
This Lee Sin has just simply not worked out. 25 minutes in, there hasn't been any kills secured. While Cadril had pressure in the early game, it didn't amount to any noticeable or sizable advantages for his squad.
Yeah, ultimately what he did was put down deep vision, stop Inspired from making too many plays, and steal some camps, which is fine, but didn't have the same early game impact that maybe we would have expected if he had gone for an Elise pick that we've seen very popular, or even the Rek'Sai could have been maybe a better option for them to get them in a position to snowball this game.
Yeah, and you can feel the shift in power. Rogue haven't been able to touch a dragon because Cadril, with his pressure, had early dragons on lockdown. But at 25 minutes, Rogue will get their hands on their first of the game. They still only have that 1,600 gold lead, but the control and the pace feels like it's at the helm of Rogue. You know, they're dictating it. They're very comfortable. They've got scaling that you've talked about already. And now they can just start, forcing XL's hand around objectives.
Yeah, the biggest thing for Rogue here is the lead for Larson in the mid lane, over 1,000 gold lead. Here we go, mid.
All right, that was a very, very good kick from Cadril. Cast a curse. Just as we start criticizing his Lee Sin, he finds a crucial pick onto Vander. But what can they get in addition? Baron is available, but Larson, that's the Banshee's Veil popped. He's going to be able to escape for now.
I wonder if XL want to move back towards the Baron. You know, they needed to clear out the minion wave to get priority here, and there is a control ward in the pit. So if they can clear that and bait in a member of Rogue to try and face check, that could be their avenue to get a winning fight.
All right, so they're not going to start the Baron just yet. Special has stolen himself the Dominus from Prophet's Renekton. I'm waiting to see if any sort of engages happen. The True Shot Barrage, swing and a miss, didn't exactly get the minion wave. So Hyonin and Kasing just watching as their tower gets obliterated. 3 towers apiece for Rogue and XL.
Yeah, I actually really don't like that move from XL after getting the kill. You know, they had the right idea from the start. They went mid to clear that wave so they could keep that mid outer turret alive, but then they sent all 4 members into the river to clear away effectively 1 control ward. Then Cadril went to farm his jungle, Expect went top lane, so mid lane turret was left utterly defenseless.
Yeah, that's obviously just completely toppled, so Rogue very, very content as they continue to scale. Woolite just picked up his Infinity Edge, by the way. So Edge, Essence Reaver, Rapid Fire Cannon, Death Cap for Larson literally a second ago. And this was that fight several minutes ago, actually, with a great ulti from Inspire.
Yeah, so I actually want to follow Cadril at the start because I think his play is really cool. He lands the Q onto Vander, then flash kick to try and get that knock up on towards Woolite. Of course, they thought they were going to get the kill on towards Vander. He ends up flashing away and ends up being a 2-for-1 trade in favor of Rogue because all those low health bars, Rogue were just able to survive, and even with the True Shot Barrage, like it's right on the money, but it's just not enough.
No, not enough damage. Hyonin, his Iceborne Gauntlet first item just didn't carry it up. He's got the Blade of the Rune King, he's got the fully stacked Mirror Mana now, so we are entering the late game, as it were. 3-4 item spikes, but it just feels like it's Rogue that are dictating the pace, and outside of Vision, which they're now starting to channel, I want to see how Rogue continues to press that lever.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a play around this Baron buff. It has to be the next thing here. They have the 3-item spikes on their 2 primary carries. It makes them so terrifying, and they have the ability to engage from long range with the Sejuani ult, or if Vander can find a flank on this Rakan, they have the tools to find that beautiful team fight. It's just about actually pulling the trigger for them, which they've been a little more reluctant to do, I think.
And of course, taking a little closer eye at Larson, 2-0-1. He was one of the rookies that we're very excited about coming into the LEC and the league, and he's somebody that's been around sort of the challenger scene for a fair while and has held off on coming to the big stage. His debut yesterday didn't have the greatest opportunity to shine, despite getting a few kills in the mid lane. But today, on his Azir, he's up 30-40 CS before 30 minutes, and he can have a huge impact in the game with his current items and the state. You can see how aggressive Rogue are pushing towards XL, challenging them at every step.
Yeah, right now, Rogue, with their strength, are going to be the first ones to walk mid lane, hit that minion wave, and get the push off. They did sacrifice some control over the Vision in the river for it, which is what both these teams are going to be jockeying over for the rest of the game, ultimately, until this Baron is eventually taken.
All right, Baron Dance, good old EU special. Just keep looking at the minimap, guys. Keep looking at Vision. It's going to be the contest, and we'll wait to see which team pulls the trigger. But I want to talk about Yuumi itemization. We're getting to 30 minutes. Got Ardent Sensor completed as well as that Athene's. What's your take? Do you like it, dislike it?
Yeah, I mean, Ardent Sensor is the pretty standard item coming in after the Athene's. Athene's just synergizes so well with her kit, you know, with the E being on a charge system. Athene's effectively doing similar things right there. You can double up to get the extra shield too, and the Ardent Sensor just gonna make you do more damage. I think maybe a little less effective on a champ like the Ezreal as opposed to a Xayah perhaps, but still going to be the best bang for your buck on Yuumi.
And of course, with Baron and Xayah, it's always going to go down very, very quickly. Larson actually stays inside the pit for now, and XL is starting to challenge.
Yeah, XL bringing 3 members into the river now. Cadril gets stunned up.
Oh, Glacial Prison comes out again. Inspired is not hesitating. The fight isn't done just yet, though, as the Prowling projectile goes out. Inspired survives for a few seconds longer. This time, True Shot Barrage gets the kill.
Oh yeah, the barrage coming in. Now the rest of XL pushing forward. Rogue will flash away and a TP in as well.
All right, defensive teleport from Rogue will stop any further aggression. Prophet is being melted by the Flame Spitter. The Leandri's Torment from Expect, Blade of the Ruined King on Hyun, and will be able to chunk him down if given enough time.
Yeah, so right now, Infernal Drake is spawning up. The rest of XL are going to move down. Rogue will sacrifice this, giving the second Infernal of the game to XL, but they're going to trade it for control around this Baron when both junglers respawn.
Okay, Rogue gonna push up to the top. That's the 4th dragon to XL. Double Infernal, double Ocean. And the Elder Drake will be up in 5 minutes time. So that is a very, very big timer. Neither team is fully committed to Baron. And really, outside of Inspired, just finding picks, he's been involved in 5 of his team's 6 kills. It has been a little bit of a stalemate. Teams aren't really using waves to push into enemy territory very effectively.
Yeah, you know, we've seen Rogue sort of playing around the big cooldowns on their ultimates. XL don't have those, as we already mentioned. Keep your eyes on specialities all the way at the top of this fight. If there was going to be a situation where Rogue walked into the river, he would have a great flank.
Okay, huge teleport advantage in favor of XL. Hyun and Special and Expect all available to them. Only Prophet on the side of Rogue. So you may see them bunched up and grouped up a little more regularly. Inspired still sitting with his ultimate. And now Rogue, do they fancy the Baron, or are they just challenging for vision? Playing this one content and slow, looking for that first win in the summer split.
Yeah, this is a really interesting game to watch here. We're going to go ahead and check out the pro view here of, this is going to be Kjarnan's Ezreal, all right, because they were eventually able to catch out right here at the start. Inspired went in and they got Kjarnan, rather Cadril down, but then he does see the opportunity to go on forward here. He leaps on in, and then they have the super long range spells on their ultimates. You can see it's a total fadeaway. He's not even looking at that one as it goes through.
Yeah, very nicely done. Continue to chase down onto Prophet, but Prophet was able to flash defensively. And it's really interesting to see the decision making and how Hyuna decides to actually cast his spells at target. Unfortunately, not more than just the 1 kill, and unfortunately for XL, they're still behind, but that is a very positive turn in what has been very rogue-dominated passage of play.
Definitely, definitely. It is really curious to watch this XL comp be played, though, because it seems like all their fights, you have a lot of very low members escaping at the end, and they're trying to use the Equalizer and also the True Shot Barrage from Ezreal to snipe people down at the end. It makes it very, very conditional on whether this team will be successful or not in a team fight.
But Ender, this is exactly what you said in draft, that the composition is difficult to execute. It is situational, where on the Rift you fight, what spells are available, and without a huge amount of hard CC, it's very difficult to get the kills. Rogue, they've started Baron this time around.
Yeah, Rogue want to bring XL in for a fight, but no, again, they make the call to avoid it. You have Special down in the bottom lane pushing up. Right now, Rogue with 5 members should have control over mid. This means they can use that pressure to walk back into the river and clear away the vision, make it dark again, and hope that XL walk in for a trap.
And remember, teleport advantage to XL, so they're able to play the side lane. Special hasn't yet stopped pushing that bottom lane, and the Sundisk was taken down mid. Look, Special still pushing in. Luden's Proto Belt and Hourglass, so he's got a whole bunch of AP if he wants to start hammering away. Wisely backs up, there's no vision for XL really anywhere in Rogue's territory. He doesn't want to get caught out just yet.
Yeah, trying to judge this 1v1 in the split push between Special and Prophet, I actually think Silas has a good chance at this point. You know, with that Zhonya's coming in, that's 40% CDR on this champion, who also has the Conqueror for the added sustain and damage in these extended trades against a champion like this Renekton.
What I love about this gold graph, if you look on the far left-hand side, ladies and gentlemen, is the differences. 1.3 was the maximum lead XL could accrue. 2.4 is the maximum lead that Rogue has been able to accrue. And it actually is very reminiscent of yesterday's game, Schalke versus XL. That went, 40 minutes, was very, very close for very long, and it did come down to just a couple of team fights around Baron. That's the Danger Man, inspired. Whenever he hits an ultimate, good things happen for Rogue.
Yeah, and the hope for them is that they're able to land their ultimate before Special can steal all of theirs, because Special is at level 18 now. You can cycle through 3-4 ultimates in extended fights like Excel want to be taking here, and it just seems like neither team wants to pull the trigger. Or maybe Excel want to pull the trigger, but they just can't because they don't have the tools to.
So what do you do now? All right, Elder Drake is up in 45 seconds. Baron has been alive for a while, so with two major objectives to contest and multiple teleports to deal with, it's a difficult situation for any team.
Yeah, I think for Excel, actually we're just seeing teleport engage.
We are indeed. Vander's looking for the engage. He gets the knockup. That's technically 3. But here comes Larson with the help of Warlight. Expect is running for his life. He got the equalizer down, but it will not be enough. Cadril forced to flash defensively. Kissing with the help of UME stays alive, but Rogue find the engage.
Rogue pull the trigger and get 2 kills there, sniping out Yarnan at the start of the fight. That was exactly what they needed. They're going to move towards this Baron now, but Elder Dragon is spawning soon, and Excel might want to sneak that away.
Oh, it's going to be very difficult to kill, but there's a lot of damage in Special's kit. Elder Dragon, 12,500. Rogue, they have to know what's up. They've already finished Baron, and they're barreling down for Elder.
Yeah, I think Excel do not have enough time for this. Rogue are on the way. It is a Baron power play, 5 versus 3. There is a teleport on Expect when he spawns in 15 seconds, but this is just going to be 2 quick ones for Rogue.
Okay, Special does have Rakan's ultimate hijack. That can be huge. Do they risk a 3v5 in the Elder Dragon? 2 seconds for Hyun, and he can throw the True Shot Barrage. Special has used the Vander ult. It is not secured. The knockup from Vander onto Cadril. He's running for his life. He's attached with Kissing's Yuumi and continuing to run. Prophet will find himself a stun, and this should just be a matter of time. Woolite gets Cadril, and Kissing follows after.
Yeah, this could be really bad for Excel, losing both neutral objectives. Now, Rogue do not have a minion wave in the bottom lane. That one's still stuck away, and Hjarnan smartly walked to this mid lane to clear that minion wave, so they will be able to buy time for their jungle and support to respawn.
Oh, really good engage from Vander. They just found one pocket of darkness, caught XL unawares, and that led to absolute disaster.
But this is one of the biggest weaknesses of Yuumi. If you engage on her, her peel tools are actually really garbage for an enchanter. You know, her Q doesn't slow unless it travels for a full second. The ult is a delayed route, so you can see even with Ezreal, when Vander finds this flank, there's absolutely nothing you can do to disengage this. Hjarnan immediately gets burst, and even though Kissing can hop onto Cadril and escape, Expect will not be so lucky.
And that's what you said as well, that Yuumi and actually the XL comp when ahead can do very well. They can be very oppressive. But when behind, the kit and the composition itself doesn't have a lot of get back into the game type of options.
Yeah, I mean, the strength of XL's comp is their range, but when Rogue have all these tools to just jump melee on top of you and blow you up with these big cooldowns, it is not going to work. Now with the Elder Dragon and the Baron buff, the siege should come easily.
Man, if it wasn't hard enough already, Kionan throws out the True Shot Barrage, but it doesn't matter. 2 GAs on Rogue. It is Prophet as well as Woolite that's got that in their kit. The inhibitor falls over. It's a 7,000 gold lead. And Rogue, they've played this one exactly how they wanted. Get to late, then win the game.
Yeah, and they're keeping the tempo up too. Larson teleports to the top lane to catch this wave, and he's waiting for that next minion wave to group up. So they have basically 2 minion waves coming in for the last minute with this Baron buff. That should mean yet another inhibitor for them, because Excel pulling the trigger against this buffed up team comp would go really poorly.
All right, 25 seconds for Elder. That's the first buff. 55 seconds for Baron. Equalizer is thrown down. That decent-ish damage onto Woolite. Special kind of whiffs the stolen Glacial Prison, but it does defend the objectives.
Yeah, those are actually just smart zoning ults. Like, honestly, the Sejuani ult just occupying the entire lane right there will buy them time to clear that wave.
I just wanted to fight, and I completely forgot they're defending their base. It's Nexuses that win games, not
And also,
kills.
Special's ult is back up again.
There we go. It is available. Prophet's going to go all the way forward. He's got himself a stun. Yarnin gets caught up once again by Vander. And there goes the kitty cat. Rogue find 2 quick kills. The second inhibitor. And now it's a 3v5 defense.
Yeah, Rogue are charging on in here. Special making the play.
Emperor's Divide comes up from Special. This just needs to buy time. He goes golden thanks to Hourglass, and Prophet's being burned down from the Flame Spitter. But the GA is popped, is procced, and it will bring him back alive. There is no kills for XL. The Nexus turrets are falling. That second one already down. And as Rogue turn their attention to the Nexus, Rogue win their first game of summer.
Slow and steady wins the race there for Rogue. They draft team fight, they wait for their item spikes, and then they immediately pulled the trigger waiting or saying, maybe this team's a little hesitant. I don't know if they feel comfortable finding these fights. But then Vander said, oh yeah, we're going in and we're winning the game right now.
It was a low-risk game style from Rogue, but it worked. It's not what we've come to expect from the likes of G2 or OG, for example. But it is the first win of summer. And it was in confident fashion. I mean, Larson ended up finishing the game 3-0-8. I think he closed out everything that Inspired started. And for me, Inspired Sejuani definitely was impressive this game.
Yeah, after being set a little bit behind in the early game too, because Excel were doing a very good job of tracking him and stopping him from having a very high impact. But ultimately, him paired up with Vander to find these engages, you know, those 2 ones in the mid lane and in the top lane. Both times finding out Yarnin were key for Rogue to come away with the win.
And when you look at the XL composition, you go back to the question we said, you know, yes, Yumi's open, yes, Yumi's available, but now you first pick her, the team composition around the cat, challenging, you know, difficult to pull off, and we sort of saw that in execution. Kadril wasn't quite able to get the angles on those Dragon Rages. Special didn't really have a high impact stolen ultimate, and the rest of the comp couldn't bring the rest to the table.
Yeah, I think my takeaway from this game for Excel is that it was a very interesting, a very cool composition. You know, in theory, I really like a lot of the ideas they were trying to bring, but for this team, you know, that's bringing in a new player, that's trying to climb up, I don't think you have to be this fancy. I think you should just go back, go to the fundamentals, and bring that into play.
Yeah, definitely the case, and sort of what Rogue did, you know, a little bit more traditional. Yeah. So Rogue, they end the weekend 1-1. Rogue got smashed yesterday by Misfits, bounced back today with a convincing win. One of the guys that I definitely want to look at was Larson. We get a couple of big plays from him on that Azir. And I think I definitely want to see just how many of them were started by Inspired.
Yeah, I think this was when he got caught out initially and decides, instead of disengaging, he just throws Special back in on towards the rest of his team. And you notice how he keeps the range there with the Azir, applying all that DPS, and then Vander, of course, body blocking the Sonic Wave there from that Lee Sin to get him out safely.
And of course, taking a look here from his perspective in the game, with a little bit of luck, we'll get 1 or 2 more plays. Oh, this was the Vander engage just from behind that got Elder and then eventually Baron.
See, I really feel like this game was just a Vander highlight reel, personally. Larson's doing all the damage, and he did play well, but this was a team-wide effort, I feel like, from Rogue.
I mean, it's funny because if you were to vote for your player of the game, Kia player of the game, who would you vote for? I'm hoping our guys are on there. Inspired, Larson, and Vander. They're going to be your options.
Those are the correct 3 options.
I agree entirely, but I'm leaning Inspired.
Oh, you're leaning Inspired?
Yes.
I think it has to be Vander. The creativity in those engages I thought was clutch from him. It was a really good performance by his Rakan.
Man, look at that mountainous drop. Eventually goes to 7K after about 33, 34 minutes. And that was the Vander engage that got them the huge win. But yeah, Kia player of the game, as we already mentioned, Larson, Inspired, and Vander. You guys go decide. Don't vote Larson. He finished it up. All credit to him. But it's the setup that deserves the win today.
Yeah, you know, Larson had some good games yesterday, today. Inspired had a good game yesterday, today. Vander just had a really good game today. He deserves it.
What's your take on XL's performance over the weekend, of course? Now, they end 0-2, slightly more competitive game. Actually, no, that's not fair. They had 2 very competitive games, slow-paced, but they end up falling short at the final hurdle.
I think this team needs reliability. They need something they can rely on, whether it's a player that comes in and consistently performs. I think that can be expected for them, but also just in the way they draft. I think they need easier things, and not easier as in this team isn't good enough to pull off these types of comps.
Yeah.
But I think this comp is just very swingy. You know, you can have fights like in this game that were just like slivers of HP that determined whether or not they would win or lose, and that ends up making them not look too great.
It's actually a concept that I really like, ease of execution. It doesn't imply that you're a bad team, right? There's no implications there. It's just, is the comp simple to understand and pull off in more scenarios? Rogue's was, they pulled it off well, and that's why Rogue won. So let's check in with Law and their rookie jungler.
Thank you very much, guys, and thank you, Inspired, for joining me. Congrats on your first victory. The game took a long time to take off. I'd say you tried to gank top a few times. It didn't work. So what was the way to adapt around this with the game plan?
I would say it was hard to do something on both side and mid side because they had early game champions like Sylas and LEC. So our only chance to do get a lead in the game was ganking top, but it was really close, but didn't work out. But even though we knew that our team comp is outscaling really hard and the pressure is on enemy team to do something in the game.
I agree, and even knowing that Excel's tools in the composition were only long poking range without actual CCs as the caster said it, how did you approach team fights knowing this?
We knew that we can't just start the team fight randomly without any setup because they will just poke us out. But we had to find the flank, and our champion Rakan is really good at flanking, so we just played slowly. It took us a little bit too long to find this flank, but it was fine.
Why did it take long to find the flank, would you say?
Maybe we were a bit too nervous because it's our first week.
Afraid of winning sometimes?
Yeah, maybe.
Except of that, you're one of the rookie players of this summer split, 17-year-old, one of the youngest players in the league, I guess. So tell me about making your debuts in the best region in the world.
I don't know. It was a really fine week.
Yeah?
And I'm looking forward to get some more wins.
Who are you waiting for to face? Who's the team you look
Every team?
Every team?
Yeah, I want to check how good our teams.
How about G2?
It will be the hardest one, probably.
Well, you have time to prepare for this one. Thank you very much for this very first interview in the LEC. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, it's going to be SK Gaming versus Schalke 04. Stay tuned, guys.
Yeah.
He's forced to flash defensively. Equalizer was already used, and the prowling projectile tags Vanga. There's the follow over the wall. You and me brings Yumi all the way to the front, but the ultimate's on cooldown. No more chapters to read. He used it defensively, saving his own life. Dragon's Rage kick following up, as well as the secondary Q. Now Vanga continues to run for his life. Defensive teleports coming out from Rogue, but it's special. That ends up trading 1-for-1 with Warlight.
No flash, Rakan. I snare. Good job. Hey, go slow.
Yeah, I think Forex, actually we're just seeing a teleport engage.
We are indeed. Van is looking for the engage. He gets the knockup. That's technically 3. But here comes Larson with the help of Warlight. Expect is running for his life. There we go. It is available. Prophet's going to go all the way forward. He's got himself a stun to Yarden. Yarden gets caught up once again by Vanda. The Nexus turrets are falling. That second one already down. And as Rogue turn their attention to the Nexus, Rogue win their first game of summer. Welcome to ProView. Exclusive POV streams for every player in every game let you get closer to the action and get inside their minds. With Multiview, you can create your very own stream, unique to you, with up to 4 feeds. And with our advanced timeline, you can hone in on all the big plays that matter most to you. Watch LEC in a whole new way for €14.99, or get the All Access Pass for $19.99.
space would help us see it. Now I see it. On the bed and I close my eyes. Think about those perfect nights in Phoenix. Still feel it. But there's no relief. It's weighing on me. It's taking its toll. It's not letting go. Damned if we do. Damned if we don't. Sometimes I wonder if we knew it all along. So what are we gonna do with all this love? And in 12 years' time, when we smile, when we think about us, hey, our timing is a mess, but that don't mean that it means less. And if we have to say goodbye 'cause it's for the best, what are we gonna do with all this love? Yeah, with all this love. With all this love. With all this love. Are we gonna box it away? Save it for when it rains in LA. We need it. We need it. Oh, maybe we'll wake up one of these days to the biggest mistake we ever made was leaving. And I'm thinking, so what are we gonna do with all this love? And in 12 years' time, when we smile, when we think about us. Oh, our timing is a mess, but that don't mean that it means less. And if we have to say goodbye 'cause it's for the best, so what are we gonna do with all this love? Yeah, with all this love.
on to week 1 of the LEC summer split. Sometimes after a game like that, you think it's like week 6, but it was definitely week 1, and in the end, Rogue won, and I think a lot of people will be happy to hear that the Kia player of the game turned out to be Vander with 61% of the votes, and they're doing a fan meet right now as well. Are we happy about that?
I mean, think about how rewarding it must feel for Rogue to finally kind of get their foot back onto the board right now. They made the adjustments, they brought in the new roster, they had experimented with bringing Vander onto the team, they looked much more decisive, and so it must just feel like a good payoff. We made the right choice here.
Yeah, and you can only beat what's in front of you, and I think this is one that they absolutely had to win, and I think you voted for them as well.
No, I
sorry, that was
we both jumped ship.
Yeah, I jumped ship after a day of games. Probably.
I'm sorry, Vander.
I'm sorry, but we'll see how their growth continues throughout the split. I think right now they're still a little too slow for my liking. I think the game is very fast-paced right now, so they need to pick up the pace if they want to keep up with the rest of the team.
Let's keep track of how they evolve. But coming up next, though, we've got SK Gaming taking on Schalke 04. The battle of the two German teams. That is now yesterday, SK Gaming, the rookies, they took on Fnatic, and it wasn't pretty, unfortunately. Not the warmest welcome back to the LEC. They got crushed. So what didn't go right for them?
So one of the biggest things was, I believe they also picked the Azir, and then they also got shut down in mid lane. And I feel like that a lot of the issues were kind of stemmed from the fact that they didn't have the same mid-jungle synergy that Fnatic had coming into that game, and I was very surprised because I was expecting Selfmade to be Rookie of the Split Selfmade, you know, where he popped off at the beginning of the split and it was all about how he was finding all these early game plays, he was on the job, and I had high expectations of him, and he was invisible. It felt like that he didn't even try to have any kind of impact that he did last split.
Yeah, I think about like 60 minutes in that game, he was sitting 0, 0, and 0 on the likes of the Jarvan, so just kind of a completely different look from him. That said, hard reset, shake it off, go into this game, find that gank potential, because that's where SK really thrive. It's in those team fights and bringing CC to multiple lanes.
And here we see it. That is exactly what he did in the spring split, and why he also earned Rookie of the Split. The fact that he can take these games and be very active in the early game and put his team on the front foot. That wasn't the case, so I don't think we need to despair too much because we know that he can do this. Just very shortly, what do we think of Sakurai in his first game?
Kind of invisible.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. He should be a carry-oriented top laner. It should just be Selfmade and Sakurai just moving together.
This.
All right, that's what we want to see today from SK Gaming. Well, they're up versus Schalke 04. And of course, the big headline for Schalke coming into the summer split was the return of Trick, and Trick being introduced to that roster. And I know you guys don't agree completely. Frost think he did amazing. Vedius says he didn't do anything. So which one is it?
We had a fight. There was a couple of fists thrown. It's fine, Trick. I'm on your side. I loved what you did. I loved your river control. And I just love the direction that you bring to this team, especially in that cocoon right there. Ultimately, you were why you won the game.
Only the river control and that cocoon?
I just thought his early game was good. Vedius, I know you have a different perspective on it.
I just think that with the tools that he had, he could have done a lot more. Perhaps my standards of Trick are a little bit higher. Maybe
two-time MVP Trick?
Yeah, but I think that with the tools that he had, I think that he didn't make much of them. When we saw yesterday, how the early game played out, I don't know, I guess I wasn't that impressed. So I'm still keeping my eyes on Trick. I think that he has still fundamentally helped the team, but so far, I haven't been blown away.
This is awesome because last time he was here, those screens weren't there. So he has never seen himself larger than life.
My favorite was Upset twisting in his chair. He's like, that's not me.
There you go. Upset and Odawamna yesterday both commenting on the fact that Trick is bringing some much needed guidance to the lineup. So we'll see if that translates into a win for Schalke once again. We'll very soon find out if Trick can lead Schalke to a 2-0 week as we leave it over to Quickshot and Ender.
Thank you very much, Sharks. That's right. Can Trick do it, or will it be Sakurai and
Selfmade?
Yeah,
you know, for me, it's all about the jungle position. That one's for you, Frosk. Because Selfmade was the guy that carried SK to playoffs in last season. And now for Schalke, they bring in Trick, who already I saw bringing a lot of structure and shot calling to this team.
And of course, we heard Upset talking about him yesterday, saying he actually thinks Trick is currently quite underrated. He had a good performance. I'm going to put you on the spot after one game apiece. Who is the better jungler?
Just one game, I'm gonna say Trick. I actually thought his early game pathing was really, really cool, how he was able to track the enemy jungler and work to set his team up for success, whereas Selfmade yesterday was a little bit invisible, but I do expect Selfmade to bounce back and have a lot higher of an impact moving forward.
All right, let's take a look at the draft. Of course, yesterday, the Jarvan for Selfmade did not go particularly well. Elise on the side of Schalke. Trick wasn't able to get too many early kills, but he found the crucial cocoons later in the game, and we saw his stats a moment or two ago, and instantly out the gate, Yuumi and Olaf taken away.
I mean, Yuumi has a 0% win rate. I'm not sure why we're banning her, guys.
Elise taken away as well. What I like about this, all of our pregame was focused around the junglers. We believe the jungler role in this matchup is going to be pivotal, and the first two bans out of SK Gaming is targeting the jungle.
Yeah, so what do we have left? We have Jarvan, we have Sejuani, and we have the Rek'Sai, I think, would be the most powerful options here for SK. I think if you ban this many junglers, if you go for a third one especially, you are going to be looking to lock one in right off the bat. We know Selfmade loves that Rek'Sai. While he has different view in terms of item builds for the champion, that is certainly one that he could use to snowball his team.
Yeah, definitely going to be the case, and Aatrox is the next ban here from Schalke. One ban apiece left. What are some of the power picks that you could consider? Xayah is now taking out the pool. The bans from the last time we saw professional play to now is very, very different, but the prior picks are still up there.
Yeah, well, we still have Aurelia and Sylas up and available. Aurelia's been one that's been consistently banned, picked maybe once or twice yesterday, but 100% present so far in the LEC here. So if that one does slip through, maybe SK don't want to go for a jungler right off the bat, because we still do feel like there are two power pick junglers available. They could go for that Aurelia.
All right, so I mean, it's difficult to choose, but when you invested jungle bans, it makes me think they want to prioritize that role, get that off the table early, and not give Trick his preferred option. And of course, if Sejuani does get locked in, which I think it might, something we've seen in some of the leagues is, of course, that opens up the Camille. We got to cast it yesterday, talk about how strong that mid-jungle duo can be if Pyrian wants to go that direction.
Yeah, it's interesting because Pyrian, I think about him and I wouldn't associate him with the Camille necessarily. He is much more about controlling mid lane. I think Lissandra was a very popular champion for him during last split, and he's a relatively quiet player. He plays to get pressure and then work with Selfmade to collapse on his side lanes, but very rarely is he ever the star for this team. That being said, I do think he is a very strong fundamental player and a key component as to why SK did make playoffs last split.
Well, that Aurelia you talked about was available, is now picked up on the side of Schalke. Go in the hands of Abadage or Odawamne. If they lock in the Rise, they can obviously flex that, but it will depend on what SK Gaming decide to lock in. And solo lane is this early on, that's a little different, but guaranteeing you get the power picks.
I mean, there's so many power picks, why not go for them? So I think that is a very strong 1-2 punch to go for early on. Then you can maybe hide a pick. I think you go for jungler next year if you are Schalke, but you can guarantee Upset and Ignore have a good bot lane later on in this draft. Now for SK Gaming, they have the Sylas paired with the Sejuani. I think that is a very strong combination because of, you add in a couple melee champions alongside the Sejuani, it really opens her up to have a higher impact gank before she hits level 6.
Well, how about a Renekton and a Sylas?
Boom.
Solo lane is locked in for both sides. I'm expecting, anyways. Can't deny the fact that you can still flex to the bottom lane. I wouldn't anticipate it with Upset. You've got those solos. Melee solo lane is combined with Sejuani, so a lot of kill pressure, a lot of damage wherever Selfmade wants to go play, and it's going to be the Trundle response. Do you expect this to be support?
No, I'm thinking this is actually jungle here for Trick. When Trundle was back in meta, it was mainly as a counter pick to Sejuani. Of course, he had been nerfed quite significantly since then, but his pillar is still a very strong tool in terms of the CC it provides. The slow is still pretty massive on that ability, and of course, once he gets his ultimate, you just rip through the resistances of Sejuani. She's going to have the aftershock, her passive bonus inflated. If you pop the R when those two are on for her, you can actually make her go into negative armor and MR, which is just brutal for a frontline tank.
It's gonna, and combine that then with Aurelia and Rise to kill anything that has had its stats subjugated. Very, very powerful turnaround into ban phase 2. Alistar and Kalista taken off the table, so that Alistar would potentially have been a threat if Sivir was an option that you were considering. Sivir could do very well into the likes of Trundle, Rise, Irelia comp, and it's actually banned away now, so denying that option from Schalke, and they've got to decide whether they go now support or bot laner.
To me, it's Ezreal or Kai'Sa here for Upset. If they wait a little bit longer, they can decide what he wants to take here. I think they have a lot of strong pick tools right now. When you have the Trundle Pillar, that is a very long-range spell that can boot people out of position and set up for skill shots like the Death Sentence from this Thresh. So I think that is an interesting combo to try and throw out here.
All right, so it's going to be the Thresh, as you mentioned, and again, just a lot of tools, very versatile champions, really, and very versatile in all periods of the game. Ezreal being one of the champions that you anticipated could go the way of Upset is now stolen by Crown Shot. So he'll have some flexibility, some self-peel options if his top half of the map decides to go in. And obviously with Braum, you got a fairly defensive bottom lane, probably a self-sufficient. They might get left alone for a while, I think.
Yeah, that's typically what you see here, and Crownshot does certainly love his Ezreal as well as Upset, so it's a double steal right there. He gets a champ he is very comfortable on while denying that one from Upset, and I think looking holistically at SK Gaming's comp, they have a lot of tools to play around the top side of the map in the early game, where Schalke may be trying a little bit different.
All right, the final lock in there, once Ignat secured Vayne, he was giving just a small shout out to his Misfits days, the Blitzcrank, as well as the Leona up against SKT. Thank you for that memory. Now we've got the two team comps locked in. Got a lot of options, a lot of side lane threats and pressure on the side of Schalke. And they've got themselves the ability to get a lot of picks in any skirmishes. But the same is true when you combine Sedge, Sylas, Sedge, Renekton. They can do the same in their side lane.
Yeah, I think SK actually have a lot of power in their soul lanes, in their respective 1v1s. Renekton should be winning out up against Aurelia later on. The same could be said. Sylas into Rise, I think, is a pretty good matchup on neutral footing between these two champions. So it will be interesting to see how Trick can play through this early game to try and maybe offset some of that scaling that these soul lanes for SK might have an advantage in the 1v1.
So what is it that makes Renekton do well into Aurelia later in the stages of the game?
Basically, his ultimate is a really big source of power. I think Aurelia's, her ult is balanced more around hitting multiple targets, and she has a better team fight output than Renekton would have, perhaps. She's also a little bit less reliable in her CC. With her E, the double blades for the stun, she has to land that. That's a skill shot, whereas Renekton can dodge that. His stun is instant. It's an auto-attack CC, so it's a lot more reliable from that Renekton.
Ooh, I really hope we get to see the 1v1 going down. Odoamne playing the Irelia and Sakre playing the Renekton. I want to talk a little bit about that player once we get into game, because you had the pleasure of actually casting him over at EU Masters. But as it stands, it's Schalke versus SK. Welcome back to the Rift here on day 2 of the summer split in the LEC. And I want to turn our attention to the players that we spent a lot of time talking about in the pregame. It is Selfmade and it's Trick, Sejuani into Trundle. What should expectations be during the early stages of this game and sort of pathing options? Because there is so much potential to get kills in every lane if anybody just steps a little bit out of place.
Yeah, so I think speaking about early game, gank paths for both these junglers, they both have really good options. You look across every single lane, there is CC to set it up. Trundle, of course, will bring more damage to early game fights, but Sejuani has more CC, so I think both these champs have very good options, but the key difference is going to be when they meet up. So in a 1v1 or any sort of 2v2, if there's a counter gank situation, I would give the advantage to Trick's Trundle because of the damage it can bring up against the Sejuani.
And of course the fact that he steals so many statistics as well, Chomp is going to be so valuable. Yep. Gets an additional attack speed from the Frozen Domain. It's definitely one of the more frustrating champions to deal with 1v1. And also that pillar can be game-changing. I saw some very, very crucial pillars of ice interrupting mobility or really preventing escape paths. So that can be very important as the game plays out. And Crownshot and Dreams will return to lane just a little later than Upset and Ignat. They're going to be in time to pick up most of the wave as well as all the experience.
Yeah, we actually saw Ignar do the same pull that we saw yesterday, where you actually draw the minion aggro and then walk it into the bush to get the lane in a little bit more favorable position where you can have your support play aggressively in that second brush. Of course, now Ignar gets pushed out a little bit, but Schalke will have the first level 2 coming in, which means that once that gets taken down, they need those melee minions. They will have the advantage and can push Crownshot away.
You see the respect. Crownshot and Dreams instantly back away the moment they realize that Ignar's going to get access to his second spell. Pyrian with the early ward there behind the chicken camp. To step forward and just get some information. This will tell you a lot about where Trick is and what he's doing. On the minimap, he's heading to blue.
Yeah, you saw SK actually putting 2 wards inside of Trick's jungle. First, I believe it was Sakura that warded over that Baron wall to see if there was going to be a level 2 gank up top lane, because that is one thing that a Trundle can do. If you take the pillar as your second ability, you can go for a very early game gank to try and shut down that Renekton, but they didn't see him there, so Pyrian said maybe he's on the Raptors. Once he puts down that ward and they see he's not, it's pretty safe to assume at this point that he has path down bot.
All right, what about Trick? Gone press the attack, got himself the machete to start off. Very, very healthy clear on the first. Of course, didn't go into the chickens just yet. We'll clear out the wolf camp, and then we start seeing where does Selfmade and Trick go, and who's going to get the early advantage.
Yeah, I think Selfmade just wants to hover around the top side of the map for the time being. You know, take this Scuttle Crab. If you can then walk in and contest the Raptors, that may be a good option, but this ward will end up seeing Trick if he does walk in for that camp. Instead, he's actually looping all the way around, and this was the idea that I was talking about using the Trundle Pillar to find an early game gank up top lane. Trick maybe expects either a dive from Selfmade or the opportunity for a gank.
All right, let's take a look. Pyrian, can he get this gun? Is going to find one, gets the second. That's a double stun. Defensive flash from Abadagi, but he escapes with his life.
All right, just barely getting the phase rush in there as well to scoot on out of there. Abadagi, he's been bullied so much. Think back to the spring split of last year. Junglers always coming into this man's lane and shutting him down, so it's nice to see him get away for once.
Oh man, being picked on and really challenging start to the game. But Flashless, he's going to be able to teleport back to lane. As it stands, he's going to try to get this wave potentially to bounce. It looks like it's pushing towards Pyrian, but you can see Trick waiting in the wings. And if Selfmade can find a return gank, this is good. Selfmade, we've heard the word several times. Invisible yesterday in the early game. Definitely not invisible in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, and especially because you get that gank before level 6s come in. So now there's no flash on Abadagi. Give it 2 minutes, Selfmade's going to be level 6, and then he comes mid lane. Well, this Ryze doesn't have a flash. He opted into teleport instead of cleanse, so that means that should be a very easy kill unless Trick shows up. If Trick can counter gank, that is where Schalke can maybe turn it around.
All right, let's take a look at the trade here. Pyrian gets caught and eats a lot of damage from those overloads. But you mentioned when Trick shows up, like, what is the 2v2s here? It feels like more damage on the side of Schalke, so in theory, if they get you locked down with that Rune Prison and Pillar, they should be able to win it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think SK have a lot of burst damage when they go in for these types of trades, especially around the mid lane where, you know, Silas lays down all his cooldowns, which are relatively high, especially early on in the game. Sejuani has her stun, which comes in immediately, but then in an extended trade, the Trundle's going to be able to do a lot. The Ryze, of course, as well, should be able to fire back effectively.
Yeah, definitely going to be the case. And Trick is still, he's just, you know, lingering around the mid lane. Obviously not a lot of camps to clear if you look at the minimap, so he's going to spend his time warding his flashless mid laner. While that's going on, the top laner has been shoved in. Sakura was able to get a small advantage, while Odo Wamne is still sitting in lane, and the first back will be a phage for Sakura. He's not going to use the TP to come back up. He had the advantage of backing first, and Odo, we'll see what he can do if he decides to shove, back shop, then come back.
Yeah, in my experience with Sakura is this man just always has an advantage, because when I was watching him play at EU Masters, he averaged a plus 25.2 CS differential at just 15 minutes. That is gigantic. I know you know, you're the stats master.
That is massive.
Yeah, it really was insane. And back in the day, he got a lot of ranged top laners. That was always sort of his bread and butter, but it was always about having a very lane-dominant style. You come into the LEC, of course, the level of competition does rise, but I still expect this guy to play that same style.
Well, Selfmade, I think, it just snuck in. Odo will spot that one, and obviously Selfmade is... We're not going to go in for the fight just yet. Odo realizes something's fishy. He is stepped back instantly.
Yeah, when you see the Sejuani mark on the cannon creep.
Yes. So Odo knows something's up, but he's not going overextended. And what I was going to say is expectation. Can Sakura go up plus 20 CS against Odo's Aurelia.
Yeah, Selfmade is really sitting this one out right here. Of course, he has the ultimate, but Odo does have the flash. If he can react, he can dodge it.
All right, there's the flash. Odo was trying to bait that one out and actually ends up coming away worse for wear.
I actually really don't like this gank from Selfmade. In theory, it can be nice, but ultimately, I was expecting to see him come to that mid lane. There's no flash on Abadage. Abadage is pushing up. Selfmade should just look to control vision around one side of this mid lane and then force that play. It's a very easy gank to lay down. I think it's a missed opportunity now that his ult is on cooldown.
On the same token, Selfmade at least making those plays. This is an improvement from yesterday.
I can see him, that's for certain.
Albeit not the strongest. He's got 2 flashes from 2 ganks. That means Abadage's is still on cooldown. 25% of the cooldown remaining. He's not going to be under pressure just yet. And we haven't actually looked at these bottom lanes at all in quite a bit of time. 15 CS advantage for now. Upset and Ignore. Remember, they had the early level 2 and they've been able to keep the pressure up, but there is a very large number of minions pushing towards crown shots, so it will close that gap somewhat.
It'll close the gap, but Upset will certainly be ahead in this lane. We saw it just from the start of the laning phase as well, where they, pulled that wave into the bush, got the earlier level 2, and were constantly pushing up. And because there hasn't been any jungler involvement around this bottom lane, it has just been Upset and Ignore applying the pressure, and they're very close to getting the first plate in that bottom lane as well.
This kind of benefits Schalke. I mean, Upset on Vayne, you have to feel more confident in, versus crown shot on Ezreal. You mentioned one thing about the jungler involvement. I've actually got the jungle proximity stats from yesterday, where Selfmade actually spent 49.9% of his time in the early game around his laners, despite having no impact. Trick, on the other hand, roughly 4 percentage points less. You look at his game this time around, and it's very similar. He's just been power farming, he's pretty much ignored everything, but his laners haven't needed the help and haven't been under pressure, so you can't fault him for that.
Yeah, and what we have seen him doing is actually shading his laners at times where they could be ganked, whether it was pathing top lane and sacrificing maybe his Raptor camp in order to protect from a potential dive when that wave was collapsing. So I think it's pretty obvious here that Trick is a smart player and that he is trying to figure out where Selfmade is on the map. Even without the vision, he's trying to put together that mental picture and placing himself on the map where he thinks is best.
Yeah, right now, Trick and Selfmade reading the same situation. They're both in place. Selfmade's got the ulti available. Abadage's going to flash away from it. Trick is in trouble. He's taken so much damage from Period, but they've turned around. Subjugate flash forward for Chomp is not enough. First blood picked up by Selfmade. True Shot Barrage comes in for extra measure, and Selfmade greater than Trick.
Really nicely played there from Selfmade. I need some more time to maybe figure that one out for certain, but he saw him on the ward in that brush, so Selfmade had the counter gank. It meant that Schalke used all their cooldowns to try and find Pyrion, who was able to use his flash to get away. Now he's in trouble though.
Flash Flay, death sentence will not matter despite it missing. Ignor's Ignite picks up the kill. And that's a 1-for-1 in the mid lane.
All right, so Ignore going to come in clutch to make things right here for Schalke. The gold going to be all evened up. We'll check this out from the perspective of Selfmade. Again, he saw Trick on that ward. He waits until they fully commit in here. Flash ultimate doesn't connect, but now he has fight.
We have to jump out. Odo Wabne forced to run for his life. Double blink as Trick is now looking for Selfmade once again. Revenge secured. Trick's going to be able to chomp one more time before he goes down himself. Now Sakrek's trying to escape with the second dice and will not do it.
Yeah, teleport advantage there on Abadage, so he's able to make his way up into the top lane and punish that of SK. This game went from very slow to very, very quick. As soon as some summoner spells got burnt there, both junglers just felt completely activated to go for some plays.
And there we go, 3 kills to 2. In the matter of 60 seconds, 5 kills secured in the mid and top lane. And of course it was Ignor's Roam that got Schalke on the board, and then Trick comboed with his solo laners for 2 additional. It's a 500 gold lead to Schalke, and still a very close, very even game.
Yeah, it is, and right now they are going to have some advantages. Top lane teleport from Sakura just went back into the top lane, so Odo will have that advantage. Now we see how this one starts out. Again, it's SK going all in, but this is what I said. Unless you can instantly burst down and win the fight, you will get out damaged in these longer team fights. Odo survives, so now Trick is able to trade back and get a lot of damage down on set one.
There was such good usage of the marks, multiple blade surges from Odo to avoid and stay just out of melee range.
Yeah, and it also gives the extra healing as mid.
Every time we come out of a replay, there's a fight. Abadage still stays alive, he's running away. The Realm Warp won't be enough, and they get the rest of his team out. Abadage, it's elated. How are you still alive? How How did Schalke get away with that? The death sentence connects with Dreams, and Silver Bolts will get procced, but they don't chase further. Oh, that was beautiful!
That was so insane. Abadage puts down the Realm Warp, but he knows if he gets CC'd, it's canceled. So he says, I'm going to sacrifice myself. Ignor's like, no, wait, look at this. I've got a lantern. Come on out with me. And Schalke get away with murder.
Man, the setup on the Realm Warp for the rest of Schalke to escape, and I was just about to be very critical of Abadage stepping forward, and Ignor saves the day, so nobody died in that exchange, but it was very fun to watch.
Yeah, Abadage has been flirting with death this entire game, but somehow, some way, he's able to get out every single time.
I mean, his flashes were really on point in multiple exchanges earlier, getting out of range of the 2v1, getting staying alive in the 2v2. He's 1-0-1 on Rise.
Hello?
Still working towards his first big upgrade, whereas Perian has already got the Proto Belt completed. Actually, you know, first big items coming in for a few members of SK. Black Cleaver secured for Sacre, Manamune and the Sheen for Crown Shot. So we're still scaling up, we're still ramping up as we're close to 15.
Xem ai về em gửi về cho.